morning, everybody, and welcome to ImpactEd. We're really excited to be coming back to you today with the second in our series around the Numeracy tool, and we've got our very special guests, James Lee Engelfeld and Kath Azzopardi.
Yeah, and so these guys, we went to them and said, we need this tool. That was actually back with the literacy tool, and Lee was pivotal in delivering that tool, and Lee came back and said, how about a numeracy tool to go with it? We said yes immediately, and here he is. So we've got, welcome Lee, welcome Kathy, they're on the screen with us. Hopefully they're visible. You're in charge of the tech.
Unfortunately, they're much smaller than us, but far more important, James.
Far more important. So we've got the tool open on the screen, guys, and firstly, welcome and thank you for your work on this. It's been amazing. It's been so well received. Some people will have this, some will only have heard about it. We did an episode a little while ago on getting started with the data, because that even idiots like us can do that. But we thought we'd wait till you guys were here before we had a bit of a deeper dive into the tool. So let's just, I'll move to the second page where we've got the three triangles, and our audience are completely au fait with looking inward, looking outward, looking forward. What's the essential difference between this tool and the reading tool, Lee?
Yeah, so the essential difference between the numeracy situational analysis tool and the reading tool is that we don't have that evidence base that CC has provided us with the effective reading in the early years piece that complements the work of Desley Konza, and it's just not there in numeracy. There is the CC piece, literacy and numeracy, and why it still matters, that piece that's been around for quite a while. But in terms of the research in there that's around numeracy, it isn't granular enough to support us with our situational analysis in this case. So we have had to look more broadly to support us with that evidence base. The second point of difference is that this tool is only directed at number and algebra. We haven't looked broadly at numeracy. We could have looked into measurement and data and statistics and probability and space and geometry, but number and algebra is the crucial strand of mathematics for numeracy. It is what reading is to literacy. Without it, you don't have that foot in the door, that gateway to be able to communicate mathematically, both in abstract and symbols and in diagrammatic form. So we have really called that out. The research base that we have used, just backtracking around that CC, the lack of CC information there, is the Big Ideas in Number by Professor Diane Simon, who is an Australian researcher out of the Melbourne University, don't quote me on which one, and a world-renowned piece called Effective Pedagogy in Mathematics. That was a study done around the world and basically nailed the 10 principles that effective teachers of numeracy do understand and believe in. So two very worthwhile pieces there, and the third piece being the syllabus document, and the first 30 odd pages of our current syllabus document, our K-10 document, to support us. And once you start engaging with the research and with the syllabus document, you'll realise that all of the lines are sort of heading towards Rome, so to speak. They all talk to one another. The evidence-based guide does have a very different look and feel to the reading tool. It does start with quality mathematical tasks at the fore, and we've done this deliberately by pointing out quality tasks and quality talk, because we, as a system, we have embraced that me do, we do, you do look and feel that is a literacy approach, a literacy pedagogy, and that gradual release of responsibility. And what the research suggests in numeracy is that it doesn't always have to start that way. We don't always have to start with, I'm going to show you how to do X, you're going to go and practice it, and I'm going to give you a problem to solve. So we've called out examples of rich and challenging mathematical tasks, with hyperlinks as examples to these, and the types of talk that build that mathematical thinking and understanding in our students. It then moves into examples of the types of tools or strategies that students need to have a handle on to master the big ideas. So the first being trusting the count, and that link that it is then made into whole number and addition, subtraction in early stage 1 and stage 1 in our mathematics syllabus. And we do that within and throughout all of the big ideas. We make the links between the tasks and the talk, the tools and the strategies, the links to the syllabus, examples of practice, right the way through for the 4 that pertain and have got very close links, 4 of the 6 big ideas that have very close links to our K-6 syllabus outcomes. And then the final component of the evidence-based guide that has a very different look and feel is assessment. And we call out the importance of effective questioning to engineer mathematical discussions, and to enable our kids to show what they know, to reveal their reasoning and their problem-solving skills. We point out the power of teacher observation and the importance of engaging with the numeracy progression to support our understanding. And we also call out a couple of diagnostic assessments through SENA, the Schedule for Early Number Assessment that's been with us since the late 90s. And there is some movement in that space with an online, on-demand diagnostic tool that should be being made available early next year. The other thing that we suggested that is a point of difference from the reading tool is that we suggest to the team leading the situational analysis that they get their heads around the research base. They may be unfamiliar with this. A lot of our time and energies in the K-6 space has been around reading and the effective teaching of reading. And for some of us, we might not be so numerically inclined, so to speak. So we do call out suggesting that you do engage with the research base. And we have got an appendix or appendix 2 that is a summary of the research base. The teacher survey has a similar look and feel, but obviously it's framed around, rather than the big 6 in reading, we've got the big ideas in number. It does make links to the syllabus, dispositions, and teachers' pedagogies. Apart from that, the tool does, the situational analysis tool itself, the document, does have a similar look and feel to the reading tool.
So, and we'll jump over to you, Kathy. This time round, Lee, the team has put not just the evidence-based guide, which is a separate document, but also an evidence-based summary.
So once we start to look outwards, we're wanting to see that what is happening within the school is aligning to current research. And this builds on from what Lee was saying in the numeracy space, that there is that knowledge gap that we don't necessarily see in the reading space. And we're very conscious that principals can be time poor, and this may be a lot of new learning. So we wanted to provide a summary of each of the pieces of research and the links, not only the papers themselves, but also with videos that will further unpack this research. So what we did is we identified 3 key pieces of research to base this upon. We've used the work of Professor Diane Seaman, as her work underpins the additive strategies and multiplicative strategies professional learning that's been produced by the State Literacy and Numeracy team, and also the professional learning of effective primary mathematical practices that was produced by the primary curriculum team, and as does the work of Walshaw and Anthony. Professor Diane Seaman is highly regarded across Australia, and her work is used extensively, including in our own Early Action for Success schools. And her work on the big ideas, which forms the foundations of our evidence-based guide, has been referenced in the New South Wales Curriculum Review as a way of decluttering the curriculum. The practices of effective primary mathematics teachers outlined within this document can also be used to focus on the collation, analysis and reflection and evaluation of evidence of classroom practice, and can be used when developing improvement measures within the strategic improvement plan. We've specifically called out the rationale, aims and so forth of our syllabus document, as this underpins effective pedagogy, and these aspects can be seen throughout these first 2 pieces of research. And the last piece of evidence that we've summarised is that of William and Askew on effective teachers of numeracy, if you feel you need a further bit of information or research to base your looking outwards findings on. This particular piece of work is 167 pages long, so we summarise the main points to make it a little bit more accessible.
So we covered the data in Looking Inward, our last episode. The second part of Looking Inward was that set of professional discussions, and these are very similar to the reading tool because essentially these are the building blocks of a good program, Lee. A vision for teaching a school-wide vision for teaching numeracy, expectations, non-negotiables, What do we want to tease out at this point?
Yeah, so with the professional judgment discussion and the 5 questions, or the 5 suggested questions that are in that section 2 of Looking Inward, what we're really hoping for or suggesting is that this should be a rigorous discussion with all staff, because there are some really broad questions that we would like to gather an understanding whether our staff are able to articulate responses and what are the consistent practices that are occurring across the whole school. This rigorous discussion is really continuing to build that analysis or that evidence base for us, to support us in creating the why. This is going to support the data that we've analysed at the very beginning of our situational analysis. It's going to complement what we gather from our teacher survey. It's going to support us in that triangulation when we start looking at the student voice survey as well, let alone before we might even get into classrooms to do some observations using that evidence-based guide as a bit of a tool. So the questions are around, do we actually have clarity of vision? Do we actually understand or have consistent approaches and beliefs towards the teaching of mathematics across the school? Is there this overarching vision? And in that overarching vision, one of the things that we suggest that we be calling out is A, the syllabus, and B, the importance of working mathematically, and those 5 proficiencies that sit in there that are at the center of our syllabus document. What are we trying to achieve of our students? How are we trying to build them as mathematical thinkers and build those positive dispositions? We also call it non-negotiables. Are there non-negotiables or expectations across the school? Are these non-negotiables, for example, things like we believe as a school and we mandate that students should be engaging in productive mathematical discussions, planned mathematical discussions. Maybe teachers are engaging with the Talk Moves resource to build that conjecture, to build that discussion, to elicit that student reasoning. Is another non-negotiable the use of rich and challenging tasks for all learners? Do we as a school believe in flexible groupings of students or student focus groups, that when I as the classroom teacher notice certain groups of students need additional support, I call them as a group rather than group rotations, so to speak. In terms of the support by the exec team, are there structures in place around supporting the effective teaching of mathematics? Are teachers empowered to discuss problems of practice, or groups of students that aren't making the desired progress and bringing this to the table and having support from the senior executive team? And is there use of data collected at a grade or stage level where we can maybe target our energies and target some collaboration or some professional learning or even some team teaching? In terms of school planning, that 4th question, is there a link between the PL that staff have attended within this current school planning cycle and its rollout in back at school with those staff that haven't attended? To attend professional learning, it's an expenditure in terms of the casuals. If you have gone outside of the department professional learning, then you've got to pay for that professional learning as well. Is this having the desired impact upon your mathematics teaching practices and on student numeracy achievement? Has there been a shift of what we have done over these past 3 years around the teaching of mathematics for numeracy? And then the final question is around school operation. Is there an expectation that the syllabus is at the fore? And is there an expectation that, hey, we should know our syllabus and our syllabus content for those stages that we are teaching? Are there planning and programming expectations? What types of differentiation, understanding and practices are taking place? And what about the timetabling of mathematics? When does that occur? Is there a consistent time? Is there some messaging around that? Sometimes we start our day with a numeracy or mathematics block, as opposed to what traditionally happens in many schools where we start with the literacy block. And what's the role of support personnel, your last teachers, your interventionists, your SLSOs? We traditionally think of those roles in association with reading and literacy, but is there a role for them within the numeracy space? This is meant to be a rigorous discussion with the whole staff, and it might start with the executive team first, where we gather a hunch around what we think might come up, but we do want really strong whole school communication and sharing of ideas during these discussion questions.
Great points, and we'll come back when we look at the evidence base. A lot of that will cement itself for us. Kathy, the staff views and feedback. There's one of those very clever surveys that you guys have put in here, where the principal someone in the team clicks on it. It does all the back end stuff. What are the questions going to get down to in this version of this survey?
So in regards to the teacher survey that we've designed, we've had a few schools trial this so far, and the feedback they've received is that they found it really helped to articulate the gaps in teacher knowledge. There were questions that some teachers were unable to answer, and others within the schools who were really accomplished and found no problems with answering the questions that we asked. And so it highlighted a real discord in the whole school understanding of both our syllabus document and effective evidence-based teaching practices. This balance was not necessarily with the least experienced teachers having the lower end of the knowledge and the more experienced having a deeper understanding of the syllabus and how to best structure mathematic lessons to maximize all student learning. It wasn't that type of imbalance, it was more across the board. So the survey results really helped to highlight the change that's needed in mathematical practices across the school to reach those numeracy targets. And as Lee spoke about earlier, we're often still teaching mathematics in a very traditional sense. And all the research says that this is not the most effective way to create numerate students. And most schools' data is also showing this way of teaching is not working. And so we need our teachers to really embrace those more research-based, evidence-based practices so we get the results. And these practices are also underpinned by our syllabus document. So the survey we're finding has and will do with schools who are continuing to use it, ignite conversations about what is happening and what is not happening in classrooms, and the knowledge that is needed by staff, for example, on perhaps what a rich task is or how to run number talk, but how to actually use these evidence-based practices to improve the numeracy results within the school and also the achievement of our students, which is the most important thing. So it's also, we've found that it's highlighting practices, really great practices that are happening in some classrooms that people weren't aware of. So it's a really thought-provoking process and really ensures that we have the voice of all of our crucial stakeholders within our schools.
That takes us nicely to step 5, and really like this point. If there's clear evidence around what you need to do, move on forward. If not, proceed to step 6. Lee, what would you be looking for in step 6?
Yeah, so hopefully the discussion will deliver, or what we could hope to get out of it is further clarification that will assist us in understanding what we have done within our last school planning cycle and what is currently taking place, and to gather details of what we might actually need going forward. Remembering that we're reserving judgment, because we are still only looking inward, but as we're progressing into that looking outward, when we're consulting with the research base, we might have some hunches based on this professional discussion, as well as the other tools within the looking inward section. And some of the discussion, like I mentioned there previously, that we're hoping that we could gather is around consistency of practice in the whole school, within stages or within grade teams. What are the examples that teachers give as non-negotiables? Are they all saying the same thing? Are the early stage 1 team saying that, in the first term of every year we have a real strong focus on subatizing skills, and we really look at presenting these in a range of different ways or range of different arrangements for our students, and we match that with numeral identification and the forward and backward number sequence, or that number that counts. What are these things that teachers are saying? then what are the APs doing? Is there consistent expectations around the support that the executive team are doing to assist teachers? Are we hearing things like we support our teachers through collaborative planning, through the identification of student needs, through even PL within stage teams or within your PLCs, around what the needs of students are when we investigate this together? And then we also might gather some hunches around the resources we have and the resources we need, the PL we have done and the impact of that, and the PL we might need going forward. And this will eventually lead to triangulation.
That takes us through the looking inward triangle. We're now looking at the outward triangle. Kathy, talk us through how we step through.
So once the looking inwards and looking outward aspects have been completed, we're suggesting it's a really good time that you might like to seek out a knowledgeable other, such as yourselves, the DELs, or the fellow principal, a Lancer, or so forth, to make sure that you're really capturing that independent view and removing any potential bias so that you can proceed looking forwards with confidence. And so when you are into that process of looking forward, we've got a few questions here to help you synthesize and make sense of all that you've found, and to really help answer the question of what is the evidence telling you. So to help develop those effective improvement measures within the strategic improvement plan, we need to start from point of fact and triangulate that data, and working from the point of what our data is telling us, asking questions and not necessarily providing the answers yet. And we need to make sure that we are not moving forward with that bias and thinking things like, well, we knew that group would not do well, or that sort of thing. We need to make sure that we're looking towards the research to help us determine how to move forward and to decide on what role it's going to play as we're developing those improvement measures and initiatives within our strategic improvement plans.
So Lee, we've got up on the screen now the looking outward research priorities and opportunities with the grid against the big ideas. Take us through how a leadership team will use that section of the document.
So the bottom row in the research priorities and opportunities section of looking outward, the matrix that we've constructed is an overarching section to obviously consider, because it is focused on our syllabus document. It calls out the role of the syllabus rationale, the aims, the values, the attitudes, and the working mathematically proficiencies especially. And what we're hoping to see in that section through the 4 questions is there consistency in the application of the purpose and intent of the syllabus in our teaching and learning programs? Is that reflected in our pedagogy? Is that working mathematically, particularly at the fore of what we're doing with our students? Are we engaging our students in tasks and activities that have opportunities for students to problem solve, to reason, where there is an expectation that they will need to explain and justify the types of strategies that they are learning? Is there room for students to develop more efficient number strategies, whether it be around additive thinking or multiplicative thinking, or demonstrating their knowledge of partitioning when it comes to fractions and decimals? And is that happening? Is there opportunities for them to develop that fluency? And then that also then links into the when. How often is this occurring? How often are those working mathematically proficiencies being addressed? How are we assessing those? And I'm going to call it out here and now. You can't assess those working mathematically proficiencies 9 times out of 10 on a pen and paper exam or a pen and paper learning task. These are the types of things where the teacher observation and tuning into our students' ability to articulate their mathematical thinking, their ability to even use appropriate mathematical language is so important. So that last row is a vital one. It's an overarching feature of that research and that looking outward section.
And I'm really pleased that you highlighted the importance of the syllabus there. Probably the most overlooked document when we talk about teaching, whether it's literacy, numeracy, or any other KLA area.
And as usual, you guys have packaged it beautifully so we know from the outset, and I take your point why you would look at the evidence base first with this tool, because you need to know that you're looking for trusting the count, place value, multiplicative thinking and partitioning as your big rocks, as you both look into your professional discussions around your maths program, but also look at the data that you get back from that staff survey.
Yeah, I just want to wish everybody good luck with this process, the situational analysis, your self-assessment in numeracy. Hopefully you find this tool a useful tool to support you. It is meant to be a support mechanism to assist you in this process. If you need any assistance, please feel free to reach out. If you need that independent lens, so to speak, once you're coming to the conclusion of your situational analysis, I'm more than happy to make myself available to consult with any school. So please let me know. And in terms of any additional support in terms of professional learning, there is a few pieces coming at this term. I'm running 3 online Zoom sessions that I have collaborated with Kathy in the construction of them. One session is focusing on turning mathematical games or activities into investigations. We're doing a session on formative assessment, specifically through the lens of numeracy. And the third session is looking at word problems, but beyond word problems or beyond Newman's error analysis. So keep an eye out for those. I know Christine Riley, my PEO, sent out the flyer. And also our statewide numeracy PL is coming back this term. We are completing the groups who started additive strategies back in term 1, and we are also, Kathy and I will be running this on Teams, running a multiplicative strategies PL course. So stay tuned for that, because there will be limited opportunities to get entry for that this term, but it will be available next year. Good luck, everybody.
So just to reiterate what Lee said there, good luck as you're moving through this process of the situational analysis and moving into the strategic improvement plan. Definitely reach out. We are here to help you in any way we can. And we hope that we do see some of your staff at some of our PL that we have coming up, as we really want to make sure that we are creating some really amazing numerate students moving forward.
I reckon that's a wrap. That's really good. Thanks.
Good job, guys.